Celina is everyone's baby, but there's a lot you need to know before deciding if it's the right place for you. For example, did you know of the 228 new construction homes listed right now, 209 of them are subject to the PID tax? I mean, add that one right into your budget. Oh, and how about an HOA? If you're trying to find a new home without an HOA, good luck, because only 2 of the 228 homes didn't have an HOA. Now, there is a good chance you've probably been told that Celina is a more affordable option. Well, compared to Prosper, it is, but not necessarily to Frisco. The median sales price in Frisco is $676,000. So want to know how much more economical Celina is? Well, the median sales price there is $649,000. So if the whole reason you're considering Celina instead of Frisco is because you've heard it's more affordable, well, you can scratch that right off your list. Now, I will say this. New construction is more affordable in Celina than Frisco, so that is a salient point. So we know you're more than likely going to be hit with both a PID tax and HOA fees in Celina. How about their property taxes? Well, if I head over to the Collin County Tax Estimator and enter Collin County, then the city of Celina, then Celina ISD, then Collin College, you end up with a tax rate of 2.08. On a $650,000 house, that'll set you back by $12,133, or roughly $1,011 per month. But in Celina, you've only just started, because now you have to add in your PID tax and your HOA fees. Like seriously, of our 228 new construction homes for sale, I counted 14 communities with either PIDs or MUDs and only 5 without them. So now we know Celina is PID and MUD heavy and not a whole lot more affordable than Frisco, unless you're specifically comparing new construction to new construction. But what else do you need to know? Well, you have to be okay with rapid growth if you want to live in Celina. Listen to this quote from the Dallas News. Celina topped the list of fastest growing cities in the nation with a population of 20,000 or more. The town's population grew by 26.6%, more than 53 times that of the nation's growth rate of 0.5%. So if you visited Celina and you love it exactly how it is, take a moment to reconsider, because you honestly have no idea what the city will look like in just a few years. And definitely don't buy there because it has a country feel, because it will not stay that way. Now let's talk about the implications of living in a city exploding in new construction. When Leah Waters with the Dallas News described Celina as the fastest growing city in the nation, she explained that what's driving the demand is the builders. She goes on saying, the reason is you have a lot of the big builders. You have Lennar and Bloomfield. You have these mega builders where they'll build master planned communities in these cities. And what kinds of things do we know come with loads of builders? Well, how about loads of construction vehicles for one? I mean, never mind all of the city infrastructure that has to try and keep up with the rapidly growing population. Plus, competing with all of that new construction, it may be hard to sell once you're ready to. So if you're moving to Celina, okay, you need to be thinking about putting down deep roots. As long as there are new construction options galore, less people will want to buy your pre-owned home. You've got to think about shiny and new versus stained carpet and dirt on walls. Plus, your home may not be coming with a warranty anymore. So even though Celina is very popular, it could be really hard to sell your home there once it's time. There are currently 400 homes for sale in Celina, and of those 400, 228 are new construction. So more than half are new construction. And remember, okay, that's just what's on the MLS. There are probably hundreds and hundreds more new construction homes that are not even on the MLS. I mean, we are talking about a majorly saturated market here of hundreds and hundreds of new construction homes. So do you really want to try to sell your pre-owned home in that environment? Another thing you really need to be cognizant of is what roads all of the new construction neighborhoods back up to. In a rapidly growing city, you know they'll be adding in tons of retail and restaurants. So if you buy a home that backs up to an empty lot, expect some sort of retail in your backyard. I mean, next thing you know, your next door neighbors, like with Walmart. Another thing to consider about the roads, okay, you never want to buy in a neighborhood where major roads may come through. I mean, obviously do not buy in a neighborhood where a main road already cuts through the middle of it, but consider the possibility of future major roads being built as well. I mean, maybe the neighborhood has a country road cutting through it that could eventually become a major highway as the area grows. I mean, just imagine the construction hell you'd have to fight your way through just to get in and out of the neighborhood as they're working on it. Celina always comes to mind when I think about this, and I'll tell you why. The North Texas Tollway Authority describes a DNT Phase 4 project will extend the tollway 13.7 miles north of US 380. When this extension is complete, it'll provide a direct link between downtown Dallas and the growing communities in Collin and Denton counties. Now, take a look at a map and you'll see how this could really affect Celina in a massive way. Right now, when you cross 380, the road becomes kind of like rural-like. After the project is completed, there will be a major highway crossing through the middle of numerous communities on both sides of the tollway. So you won't have a major road cutting through your neighborhood, okay? You'll have a massive highway. The NTTA will be taking this humble little road and turning it into a highly trafficked tollway. Now, if you're not quite seeing the problem with this, think about the Dallas North Tollway right now. What runs along both sides of it? All right, retail. We're talking tons and tons of retail. Restaurants, Walmarts, major stores, major traffic. Now think, do you really want your yard backing up to all that retail and traffic? Do you really want to live right off of a service road? I mean, just imagine how bad the traffic will become if your main way to get out of the community connects directly to the tollway. And if you have to go through a bunch of retail to get there. So what used to take you, 5 minutes, now takes you 15 or even 25 minutes if you catch too many red lights or it's rush hour. As of now, the Dallas North Tollway north of 380 looks like a meandering, pleasant road, but it is just not going to stay that way. In fact, according to the Dallas Morning News, between 2022 and 2026, the Celina Economic Development Corps expects the population just within the city limits to grow from around 30,000 to almost 54,000 residents. All right, well, guess what? It's 2024 and the population is already up to 50,746. So it is quite possible that Celina is growing even faster than they projected. They go on to explain that at full build out, it is estimated that Celina will have a population of around 380,000. All right, so picture this. That's almost 100,000 more than the population of Plano at 292,000. Oh, and did you know that Plano is 24 square miles larger than Celina? With the main route in and out of Celina eventually becoming the Dallas North Tollway, it's not gonna stay a peaceful winding road that you love coming home on after a long day. So here's my point. If your heart is set on Celina, I definitely recommend buying a house nestled within a neighborhood, not on the outskirts of it. Another thing you need to know if you're thinking about living in Celina is that you have to be okay with a commute. The brutal truth about Celina is it is a long commute on the highly trafficked Dallas North Tollway, almost any way you look at it. Many people bought in Celina because they work from home. But now more and more people are being told they have to return to the office. The Dallas News shares how Dallas ranked among the most congested cities in the US as work from home is phased out. In fact, it reports that Dallas ranked 14th in terms of congestion. They continue saying how the pandemic changed traffic patterns, but congestion is ramping back up as people return to offices. And it's true. We have more and more buyers with limited location criteria because of their commute. Now, the Dallas News is even saying that people who work in Dallas have added on average an extra 35 miles per trip to their commutes post-pandemic, with super commuting over 75 miles, up 29%. An interesting aspect of this is that the trend of long commutes is strongest among high earners, Bloom said, who likely moved farther out from city centers during the pandemic for more space at a lower cost. Now, doesn't that sound just like Celina? People who can afford homes in the Celina price range wanted to get a bit further from the hustle and bustle of Dallas, and they loved the rural feel of it, not thinking that Celina likely won't stay that way. So just how bad is the commute for people living in Celina? Well, it's 1 hour, 10 minutes to downtown Dallas, 55 minutes to Plano, 1 hour to Richardson, and 25 minutes to Frisco. Now, speaking of Frisco, you have to be okay with driving there for reasons other than just work, all right, if you're gonna live in Celina. Because right now, all of your shopping and major entertainment will be in Frisco. So while you're living in Celina, putting up with all the commercial construction, but not getting to take advantage of it just yet, you still have to drive 30 minutes to Frisco for sports, entertainment, shopping malls, everything like that. Now, I've mentioned the somewhat rural feel of Celina a couple of times now, but before you get the wrong idea, you have to know that Celina is no country city with a plethora of gorgeous, 1 acre lots to choose from. I mean, quite the opposite. In fact, Celina is all about the small yards and packing in as many people into the city as they can. And this is not the place where you're going to find huge backyards. Of the 400 homes currently for sale in Celina, only 30 had a half acre or more. And unfortunately, most of those lots have massive homes on them that only leave a small portion for the yard anyway. But you have to know this is the way of new construction. And of course, Celina is very heavily concentrated with new construction. So if you want to live in Celina, you're more than likely going to have a small yard with very little mature landscaping and a wood fence to look at for your view. Now listen, here's what I want you to know. Even though we're talking about Dallas, you don't have to settle for a small yard. I mean, just slightly east are cities like Lucas and Parker, and these are alternatives with plenty of space from neighbors if you're in like the $1 million range. The median sales price in that area is $1.4 million, so a bit pricey, but so worth it if you love the idea of a quiet area with plenty of space. Of all 102 homes currently for sale in Lucas and Parker, 83 of them have 1 or more acres. And if you're only interested in new construction, they have builders out there as well. Now, you won't get as many new construction options as you would in Celina, but you don't get all of the negatives that you'll have with tons of construction everywhere you look either. And that's another major plus to these cities. They aren't growing nearly as quickly as Celina. McClendon-Chisholm is another excellent alternative for plenty of space, especially if you're in a lower price range. It's located south of Rockwall, and homes in this city are usually in kind of like the 700,000 price range. For example, they currently have about 60 homes for sale, 30 of which have at least a half acre. I mean, there are even some lovely selections like in the 575 to 750,000 price range. So definitely worth checking out. That being said, if you really do want to pursue acreage in Celina, you'll want to check out places like Highland Crossing, Equestrian Farms, Harper Estates, and Redbud Gardens. So they do exist, and these communities can get you some acreage, but you will have to pay for it. The median sales price in these communities is around $1.5 million. So if you're looking, for acreage north of Dallas, some of your best options will be in the $1.5 million range in Celina, the $1.4 million range in the quiet Lucas and Parker, or in McClendon-Chisholm with a median sales price of $900,000. Okay, another thing you have to know about Celina before falling into the Celina bandwagon is that the schools are not great. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? They're not awful. Celina ISD is rated A by the TEA, but they're rated B or A- in other places. Only 25% of their students are scoring above average. And since we mentioned Lucas, Parker, and McClendon-Chisholm, all 3 of these suburbs actually have significantly higher rated schools. Like Lucas is zoned to Lovejoy ISD, which seriously blows it out of the park with an A rating from the TEA, and greatschools.org showing 100% 88% of students scoring above average. Parker is within Allen ISD, which is also A-rated by the TEA and extremely well known for their sports programs. They're not too far behind Lovejoy with student scores either. 87% of students in Allen ISD are scoring above average. Now, McClendon Chisholm is zoned to Rockwall ISD, which is another great district. It's also A-rated by the TEA, and Great Schools shows that 67% of their students are scoring above average. So if any of those cities sound good to you, I mean, they've got some seriously great schools to offer your kids. The good news for you Celina lovers is that the lower 1/3 of Celina is actually zoned to Prosper ISD, which has much higher rated schools and definitely can compete with Lovejoy, Allen, and Rockwall. It's also A-rated by the TEA, and Prosper ISD is actually known as one of the better school districts within the state. Niche.com actually rated them as the 18th best district in the state of Texas this year, and the district's own website boasts that Prosper ISD has been named one of the top 10 best school districts in Texas, in the 5th best school district for athletes in Texas. Now, Great Schools also shows that 53% of their students are scoring above average and 0% are scoring below average. But if you choose to go this route, know that you'll pay for it if you want to buy in those neighborhoods. Still, if you were in a comparing kind of mood, Frisco has almost the same median sales price as Celina, and yet all of their schools are rated an A by the TEA, and 80% of their students score above average. So now you have a very real and unfiltered glimpse of what Celina's like. But maybe you're a veritable sponge and you want to know a little more. Well, lucky for you, I made a video spotlighting 23 different new construction neighborhoods in Celina that you can watch right here. In the meantime, Wendy out.